Hello and welcome to the Purpose Cycle podcast, the podcast that gives you impactful practices to build towards fruition and fulfillment. Here's a taste of what we've got in store for you today.
And we end up losing the game 2-1, and I was thinking, I'm better than these people that are playing. Like, why have I stepped back? Why am I now 21, 22? Why am I letting these people play above me? For North Ferriby, like you just said, I'll reiterate, there was no chance that a team from Hull, a small team called North Ferriby, would ever dream about getting to the FA Trophy final, because the FA Trophy final obviously is played at Wembley. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say to the people that are listening, if you change one thing a month, one thing every 30 days, by the end of the year, that's 12 big things that you've changed.
That kicks you through again another couple of stages of the cycle and back to that realisation, and you was like, right, what do I need to do to make sure I don't kick back to an aspiration again and just dream of it. I want to make the next thing a reality. So we talk about initiation, and that's beginning. That's the first step. It's always the hardest step because you need to do something either drastic or you need to change something drastic in order to begin that journey. So what was that sign for you then? What was the first step on that ladder? You mentioned a semi-professional team or a professional team that you required.
Yeah, so my dad had an idea and Mark Harridge about going to America. So we got signed up to America University, thinking I might be able to get in the MLS there. But unfortunately, through circumstances at home, this is the hardest bit. So obviously I go back to my parents, my mum and dad split up and stuff, but mum got cancer. So once I found this out, I came home. Obviously I've got a sister as well, so the family all pulled together like any family would, and we looked after my mum. I'd be taking my mum in the morning and things like that to go get chemo and different things like that. But obviously, in a non-selfish way, I do want to reiterate that. Obviously, my mum was lucky, and she got through it and things like that, and she beat cancer and stuff. So that was fantastic for her, and I was so overwhelmed. But then after she got all better and was all okay, then it came to the realisation again, what am I going to do now with my life? Because it was one of them again where I've done college, I've left with a BTEC and I was happy with that, played for England, but I still wanted to play at Wembley, still wanted to play football at high level, but I'm playing in a Saturday League team in Hull, and I was thinking, what am I going to do next?
So kick back again, and this is one of the points, this is why the name of the podcast and the theme of the podcast is all about trying to deal with failures, and it wasn't a failure in as such, it was more of a realisation of your circumstance. Talk about the environmental realisation, so you had other priorities, you had other purposes to serve at that point in time, so you kick back to the aspiration again, and quite a lot of people at this point would have just gone, well look, it's not going to happen, because I've tried it a couple of times, or I've had a pro team, I've been to America, but you wanted to start again and try again. So what was that then? When did this sort of flint hit the steel and it sparked something new in you to keep pushing?
So I signed for a team called Reckitt's in Hull, and won the league easy, to be honest, and I was just going through the motions. Anyway, there was a guy at North Ferriby that wanted to sign me, but I was like, I don't want to leave these lads at Ferriby, and I just was like, nah, I'm not doing it, I'm going to stick with these. So I stuck with these for another year, and again, like, I was just happy. I got a good job in education. I was at St Mary's working there, and I just thought, I'm happy with this. But then there was one day, I can't remember it, but I think it was cup final actually at KC Stadium, and we played North Ferriby, and we ended up losing the game 2-1, and I was thinking, I'm better than these people that are playing. Like, why have I stepped back? Why am I now 21, 22? Why am I letting these people play above me? So then I had to have another look at myself, and basically, I've only just started doing this recently, but going back to goals in a journal and writing my goals down again, and I found a goal sheet from when I was like 14, and it said professional footballer Wembley. And for some reason, because I was happy and content where I was, I just thought, do you know what? No, I'm not happy and content. I've gone soft in what I would say to myself. So that's the realisation. I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna ring these people, these semi-pro teams around me, and see if I can get in a team. And that's when I signed for Barton Town, for instance, semi-pro team. went there, won the league with them, played a full season. Nottingham Forest and Celtic were looking at me, but for some reason didn't want to sign me for whatever reason. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm not happy about playing for these teams. I want to go higher. So then played for Bridtown. Again, won the league with Bridtown, did this, did that. Not saying it's all me, but obviously I had a real good unit of friends at Bridlington Town, some unbelievable characters. But then again, not happy. So I'm thinking, right, where else can I go? And then obviously I signed for North Ferriby.
Yeah. So with that in mind, then you had quite a lot of initial success. Talk about the initiation phase and beginning. You obviously reviewed it and thought, right, I need to just start now. And you mentioned your age as well, 21, 22. Obviously, you thought now was the perfect time to start. Given your age, you had to give it a crack at semi-professional. And so you've had some initial successes there in the initiation phase. So then we move on to that creation phase of creating a goal, and it's the day-to-day grind. It's the things that you do to build upon the foundations of which you started. So you've obviously built a good foundation, winning a couple of league titles with two different clubs. So then how did this creation of your Wembley dream happen? Because with no disrespect to any of the teams that you've mentioned, but you were probably thinking it's unlikely that with those teams you would end up at Wembley. And it's probably for many that are listening actually who follow non-league football, probably a lot of people would write off the team that you actually went to Wembley with, in fairness. But how did that happen then? How did it all formulate?
Yeah, so in the summer, again I spoke to the Reckitt's manager who wasn't very happy that I wanted to give it a go at the North Ferriby. So yes, I signed for Therapy in the summer, and basically he sent me back on loan to another team. I think it was Goaltown. Yeah, I think it was Goaltown I played, and then he recalled me back, and it was in and out, and the goalkeeper got injured, and I played a little bit, and then he brought the other goalkeeper back in. But it was a little bit like that, to be honest. Anyway, I played around. I think we played Grantham away, to be honest. I think I played the game. We won 1-0 or 2-1, I think. Anyway, we was going from round to round to round, and with North Ferriby being in a certain league, I think it was Evo-Stick at this point, or it might have been Conference North, the final of a cup called the FA Trophy was at Wembley. And basically, for North Ferriby, like you just said, I'll reiterate, there was no chance that a team from Hull, a small team called North Ferriby, would ever dream about getting to the FA Trophy final, because the FA Trophy final obviously is played at Wembley. So we'd be going round and round and round, beating these teams, and we'd go away to a place called Farnborough. Farnborough, yeah, that's the team, Farnborough. So that was in London. It was the first time for me for a long time I'd stay over. So we all had to stay over in a hotel, and we'd go to the game, and we were awful in the game. Anyway, we ended up winning 2-0. And then after that we played another team, and then it just dawned on me, I was thinking, we're one or two games away from Wembley. And then this is when the papers got hold of it, and we was all getting interviewed, and again getting a little bit big time. But then I was thinking to myself, we could do this. Anyway, we played Loxford in the first round of the semi-final, and we shouldn't have won. Well, we didn't win, sorry, we drew. But then they had to come to us for the replay. And then obviously the replay, I think it was 1-0 in the game, and then 90th minute we scored to make it 1-1, extra time play, then went to penalties. Luckily for us, we had a couple of unbelievable penalty takers, and we ended up getting to the final, and everyone's running on the pitch, and I'm literally just stood there and I'm thinking, I'm going to Wembley here. So I literally couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah.
But me being me, he stole that again. Fast forward 6 weeks later, I'm playing with my mates in Sunday League, being silly, playing under a silly name, because obviously I was in contract at this point, and if the league found out I'd be in serious trouble. I'm playing Sunday League on the Sunday morning. Next Saturday, I'm playing at Wembley. So basically, I've not played football semi-pro level for a good 4 or 5 years, and 1 week I'm playing Sunday League on that Sunday. The next week, on the Friday night, we got paid by the FA to go watch England. I think it was Harry Kane's first game, playing for England. And then the Saturday, we was training at West Ham's training ground. Mind you, I've just been playing at Oxford Park on pitch 3 on Costello Stadium. And if anyone's listening out of the UK, like, this is literally like a park field that's marshland, full of people drinking what they shouldn't be drinking on the touchline, beer and stuff like that. And then I'm in a Premier League training ground. having a full-on training session with my close team, getting ready for Wembley. Yeah. Then the Sunday we wake up and I'm thinking, I can't believe what's happening here. I literally am playing at Wembley in the state of 2 hours. And then obviously, you know the story, John. Yeah. There's a lot of people know the story there. We played a team called Wrexham, again, that was a league above. They were beating us 2-0. And we ended up bringing it back to 2-2. I think it was 3-2 to us, and then they scored last minute to make it 3-3. Went to penalties, and we won at Wembley, and everyone went crazy for it. And it was just, I just can't.
I remember watching it.
Yeah.
I was live at the second leg.
Yeah.
At the semi-final. I cannot remember why I wasn't at the game now on the final, but I know a couple of friends who went as well, and it was just saying, because it's crazy given how small this village is where the team's based, to having obviously try and fill out as much of Wembley Stadium as you can, you just literally you're describing the fruition phase, which is the final stage, the purpose cycle, when you bear the fruits that you've sown in previous years. How satisfying was that feeling?
That feeling's never gonna leave me, and I've done some things in my life that I'm really happy with, like a lot of things, but I'll probably get told off for saying this out loud, but there's nothing that is ever going to beat that, and it isn't just because you can get married, you can have children, you can do all these different great things, and I'm not taking it away from anyone, because some people's goals in life are to get married and have children, and it's fantastic, but from a 7-year-old, or for someone that literally can't remember the day that he started dreaming of being at Wembley and kicking a football at Wembley, that moment will never leave me, no matter what. And that is why when I wake up in the morning, when I walk down the stairs and I look up, there's a massive shirt framed with that FA trophy in there, because I feel like now the realisation of seeing something like that every morning, to know. And I will always say this to the students I work with now, and all the places I've always worked at, there is nothing in this world that you cannot achieve. Yeah. And I stick by that, no matter who you are. I don't want to wear excuses from people like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't agree with that, because like you said, that Wembley, the fruition that I went through to get to Wembley, is just, it'll never leave me.
Yeah, difficult question, because you can't go back in time or change anything. But do you think you'd have got there if you wouldn't have had the failures in your past, the past 10 years or so of your career?
I reckon it's a great question again. I don't think I would have got to Wembley. If I stayed at Hull City and I went from team to team to team, then maybe there would probably a chance. But you've got to think about what other people have done. For instance, there is a lot of players in the Premier League, in Championship 1, 2, League 1, League 2 and other leagues. Some players will play 1,000 games and they'll never get a chance to go to Wembley, and I'm like one of them lucky people. Not only did I go to Wembley, and some people laugh at this, but I've won at Wembley. I've not just gone to take part, we've won at Wembley. And when I say we, that big we at North Ferriby, there was only 16, 17 of us. We were a family sort of thing. And it's strange at Ferriby because we didn't have any cliques at Ferriby. There weren't any horrible players sort of thing. We all got on, and I think that's what got us through that specific day. But in the league as a total, it was such a close unit. So yeah.
Suit Up Apparel is a new menswear company who provide customers with a compelling range of products that combine looking amazing with comfort. The team at Suit Up Apparel know how testing the day-to-day grind can be, so they have focused their collections around one simple phrase: look great, perform even better. Suit Up are offering new customers 20% off their first order with the code WELCOME20, but don't worry, the Purpose Cycle podcast listeners can get 10% off future orders by using the code PURPOSE at checkout as well. Go on to suitupapparel.co.uk, that's suitupapparel.co.uk to see the fantastic products on offer, and remember to stay sharp and suit up.
So obviously then you've realised your dream, you've obviously played for your country, you've won at Wembley, you've done it. it then kickstarts a new aspiration, and then the cycle begins again effectively. More looking at different goals now, because you've had your sort of career-based goals, and obviously we have a laugh and a joke about fitness and things like that. But what sort of aspirations then does it then kick on to? Because obviously as you get a bit wiser, a bit more mature, you have different aspirations. You talked about what you'd say to the students here. You've got different personal goals as well. What has that then done to change and shape your goals for the future?
So for me, I'm about 32 now. So I'm looking at my footballing career at the moment, and obviously a lot's happened. Obviously we all know with COVID it's taken a detrimental effect in sport, especially the non-league game, because there's a lot of clubs that can't function without fans. So for me, my goals, my goal was to keep playing till I was 38, 39, 40 at a decent level. I'll never say goodbye to the game because I love it so much. I will be one of them people that will still be playing football locally, 41, 42, because I'll never say bye to it. I just physically can't do it because the games give me so much and I'd always want to give something back. Now, if that's like living through my sons, then it is, but I will never push them to play. It's up to them. But what I'm saying is that my goals now, it's difficult because at the moment, my job, I love my job. I love working with yourself and the other year six. To be fair, the full school, it's lovely to work for. But for me, I need something a little bit more now. And for my goals, I'll be looking for something like the police or something different, something to give back to the community. And if there is a different sport that I might get into, I'm going to have to sit down really and have a look and see what I want to do with my life, because the majority of my life's been sport, but now I need to really seriously look of what my next step of my life's going to be and my journey sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hopefully this podcast and other elements of the pep cycle help you with that. So we're on to the latter part of the episode now. These are the questions that we ask every single guest on the purpose cycle, and obviously as our first guest that will be broadcast, you've got the first opportunity to answer these questions for our listeners. So first of all, what 3 values do you, if you had to narrow it down to 3 days, do you stand by?
Yeah, so my first one, it's going back to when I was younger. Like when I say hard work, obviously I lost my way a little bit when I got a Hull City, but it would be definitely hard work. And what I mean by hard work, I don't mean just go for a typical run and do this and do this. When I mean hard work, I mean studying of what you want to be like when you are older. Like what are your main goals in football, or what are your main goals in life, and making sure that I'm dedicated to this. And what I mean by dedication, I don't mean like where you go to school and you just concentrate and you do this. When I mean dedication, I mean eat, sleep and repeat sort of thing. I know that's quite cliche when people say that, but what I mean by that is putting in them extra hours of maybe doing 2 hours extra on night, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. You need to make sure like the dedication and the hard work is always going to be there, because at the end of the day, it is something so similar. And you'll hear a lot of sportsmen say this at the moment, because it's all coming out. Them little extra hours, them little things that you do will take you so much further.
Yeah, and it's about, I suppose you can work as hard as you want when everyone's looking, but it's what you do when no one's looking that counts, right?
Yeah, correct.
What's the second value?
My second value is ownership. And what I mean by ownership is, again, like my story at Hull City, I needed to own that it was the club's decision to get rid of me. But for me, I had to take responsibility for maybe taking my foot off the accelerator. And what I mean by that is maybe being happy that I was at Hull City, but realistically, I shouldn't have ever been happy. I should have strived for more. I should have strived to wanting to play in the Premier League, wanting to play in the Championship, and so on, so on. Yeah. So for me, ownership in my own abilities and looking at myself, and taking full responsibility for everything I do. And on the positive of that, if you want to be something in life, you just put the hard work in. Again, reiterating the first step I just said to you, and you will receive and get your goals if you just take the dedication and take responsibility and the ownership of yourself.
Yeah, and I love how you referred to being happy as well, and just being settled at Hull City.
Yeah.
And we talk about microcycles, that probably then that fruition, if someone's goal was to play and sign a professional contract, would then kickstart another aspiration, which is why I've called it fruition, not fulfillment, because if you end up being fulfilled after just one cycle, you just do not ever level up and get better. It's always about the process and continuing with what you're doing. What's your third value, Tom?
Third one is resilience. And what I mean by resilience, again, going back through everything, starting off in my story, early doors, I was playing rugby league. Father said, not really for you, don't want you to get hurt and things like that. So I had to give up that. So I could have walked away, gone into something else, just not really bothered. But I didn't. I went into football. Then the whole story with Hull City, getting to that meeting, getting released, could have quit, could have given up. But then I was resilient enough to think, do you know what? No, go to college, get something under your belt. Then I got into England. Then from England, went into the semi-pro game, completed different leagues, got trophies, did this. If I didn't have resilience to do that, then what would be the point? It would literally, I'd have to walk away. So for me, you can never give up. And for instance, when I say never give up, I mean like I could have walked away from football and things like that, but even little things to help people, like where people like start the gym in January, for instance, or February, some people give up like by the end of February and stuff like that. But for me, try to be resilient in the sense of never give up, because at the end of the day, coming back to what we said earlier, John, about goals and things like that, everything will come to light if you never give up and you're always resilient. That is a fact.
Amazing. Yeah, and really does epitomise the episode name of trying to use failure as fuel there. Okay, right, final question is, how can the listeners make 2021 or even the next 12 months their best ever year? So
for me, it's difficult because I always look at certain things, like when people do like New Year challenges where they say, I'm not going to eat chocolate for the full year, I'm not going to eat chocolate for the full of January. But for me, I would say to people, don't do that. I would say change one thing in the month. So for instance, if you're not going to eat chocolate, something simple, don't eat chocolate for that month. But then the month of January, change one other thing as well. So, and then after February, then it's March, then change another thing. So as you can see what I'm aiming for here, by the end of the year, that's 12 different things in your life that you've changed. Now it can be something simple. For instance, you, John, got me into reading. I never really read. I always was into movies or things like that. But because since I've met you, John, you've made me read. So I've read a couple of books now. Now I never would have ever done that. So for me, I've changed one thing about myself in reading books. Another thing with you, John, you're always on my back about going to the gym. So for me, you are like a little mini inspirational, because I've now changed that I go to the gym constantly. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say to the people that are listening, if you change one thing a month, so I'm not even asking for anything major, one thing every 30 days, by the end of the year, that's 12 big things that you've changed. And when I say big things, it doesn't have to be massive things. It could be literally something so small about reading a book or changing chocolate or changing diet. Something that means something to you, like maybe trying to pass your driving lesson. Just that one thing a month. And that's what I would say to people.
Fantastic, great advice there. So that leads us to the conclusion of the second episode proper of the Purpose Cycle. For those who are listening who want to dig a little bit deeper into the episode, every Sunday at around 6 p.m. I do an Instagram live session in which I review the week. So the following Sunday from this episode, I will be on Instagram live. I'll be able to answer some questions related to the episode, and who knows, we might even be joined by Tom on the live just to answer some extra questions and talk about some of the main points from this episode of the Purpose Cycle. Thank you very much, Tom, for joining us. What an inspiring story, and thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I can't wait, because you've obviously told me about some of your special guests, and some of them I can't wait to listen to. So yeah, thank you for bringing me on, and yeah, definitely be tuning in for the other episodes. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Tom there for opening up with us about his experiences with failure and how he used them as fuel to eventually reach that goal that he wanted to get to, winning at Wembley. And visualising was a huge thing that he obviously didn't realise that he was doing at the time, but in good turn it came to fruition. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. Try and visualise the goals that you want to get to. Next week we have Peter Komalafe from the Conversation of Money, who will be here to tell us all about the financial goals in 2021. See you then.